Hi, guys. Welcome back to Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review. This is your host, Iggy. And today we're going to look at a couple of Dragon Models limited figures. These are in 1/6 scale. So, who is DML or Dragon Models Limited? Well, they're a company that was formed in 1987 as a sister company of Universal Models Limited, which was a hobby store company in Hong Kong. And they created this company to produce military miniatures. They were making model kits, which were considered high-end model kits. They had more parts than some of the other kits out there. They were producing 172 scale die-cast military vehicles, 1/6 scale figures, which you see a couple of examples of here. And they made deals with Revell Monogram in America and with Revell Germany and also with Hasegawa. Did I say that correctly? Hasegawa? I don't know. I don't Hasegawa. I have a Kawabunga, but I have no Hasegawa, which is in Japan. So let's take a look at these, okay? Now, many of you recall Saving Private Ryan, which came out in 1998. It cost roughly $70 million to make Saving Private Ryan, and it had a net gross of about $500 million worldwide. So it was a highly successful film, second highest grossing film of 1998. It's no coincidence that this figure showed up the following year. This one is called Dave. Each of the Dragons Model Limited figures had a name such as Dave. Even the German ones, this one has the name Alfred. And this figure resembles a character from Saving Private Ryan, Sergeant Horgath. Horgath? I can't remember the guy's name now. I should remember it because Captain Miller is always calling out to him. But you can see here, he's a little bit reminiscent of that. You see, his eyes look kind of dead, though, don't they? He's got the M1 steel pot, the M41 jacket, M43 HBT trousers. He's wearing gaiters, ankle boots, and then he comes with a 1911 45 and the Thompson machine gun, submachine gun. What is that called? I know it's not called the Thompson. Well, that's unusual. They don't have it on the back here. A lot of these box artwork, this is done by Ron Volstadt, who did the painting here of this soldier. He's a very good artist. He's been around for quite a while now, too. I think he started his career back in the early 70s. So it's been a while now, hasn't it? 50 years. Good God, is that even possible? Well, anyway, let's take another peek at the figure. Now, it looks like the uniform is a bit tailored to me. See how it's close fitting? It looks a little too neat. But it's very well done. I mean, look at those buttons. It's incredible. And his, look at that. He's got what was that? A model 1911 canteen. All this you see here, like this is a 1916 holster. I think it's a 1911 canteen. All used during World War I. Of course, the helmet is a departure from World War I, as is the uniform. World War I uniforms were wool, had a high collar. These were much more comfortable uniforms. In fact, I have a friend, Josh. He likes wearing, well, he used to. I don't know what he wears now, but he used to wear a reproduction of one of these jackets. Or it might have actually been a real one. I never asked him. I should have asked him. It's a cool jacket. Okay, Iggy's first mistake. Model 1910 canteen. I got that right. Okay. So these figures are very nicely packaged. They were a bit pricey. I remember they were going for like between $45 and $50 in hobby stores. So they're not a cheap figure to buy. At one point, I had quite a number of them. However, I had a number of them stolen when my storage space was broken into the night before I left for another storage facility. What he did is he unscrewed the hinges and just swung the door open, took out the things he wanted, and screwed back the hinges, then hid these items in an empty storage space and put his own lock on it. Now, that's me speculating on how he performed this little stunt of his. I did contact the police. They did nothing about it. They said, "We have no proof. It's your word against his." So he got away with it. He also stole a number of G.I. Joes, one being a deep sea diver that my mom bought for me just a few months before she passed away. So that was painful. And also, stealing someone's property like that, that's really, well, I promised one of my viewers I wouldn't swear anymore, so I'm not going to say what I think that guy is. Anyway, he got away with it. He stole an accent table that belonged to my grandmother from 1910, and a runner and a plate, a pewter plate that my mom and dad gave me for Christmas. A whole bunch of odds and ends, but mostly he stole collectibles from me. But I'm sorry to get off on that. It's kind of a negative thing to talk about. So let's change gears and continue with this. This is more fun than talking about that anyway. So it's a pretty cool figure. Now, oddly enough, this is the only American I have by Dragon models. All the rest are German. My brother probably thinks I'm a little fascist or something. I don't know. I just think the German uniforms are cooler than the American ones. Although I wouldn't mind having this jacket. I thought it was pretty cool. Okay, so that's Sergeant Dave representing the Big Red one of the infantry divisions that invaded Normandy, the other being the 29th Infantry Division. Okay, next up is Alfred. And Alfred is a figure that represents a soldier fighting in Aachen. Now, Aachen was the first German city that the Americans encountered. They thought it was going to be a cakewalk because, sorry, I hit the phone with my other hand. They thought it'd be a cakewalk that they would surround the city and just walk right in because they thought it was defended only by a what did they call those reservists that were elderly? I can't remember what they were called now. Oh, Volksgrenadier. And they were like a reserve division. However, what the Americans didn't know is that the Aachen had been reinforced by a Panzer Grenadier division. and a Panzer division. They didn't know that that happened, and so it became a bitter fight that didn't end, I think, until the end of October. But this represents one of the SS Panzer Grenadiers, and he's wearing a late pattern 42 smock, which had the elastic cuffs and had the tied up breast opening there, and you could see the top of their tunics. They're wearing, I think he's wearing an M43 uniform with ankle boots and gaiters, and he's got an M40 helmet, two M43 grenades. How are those different than the M24? Well, instead of opening the bottom of the grenade with that had like a cap screw on the bottom, it had a fuse on the top, and you would detonate the not detonate, but ignite the fuse through the top instead of the bottom. So, but otherwise, it's, the grenade resembles an M24 grenade. They had the MP43 Maschinenpistole 43 rifle, or they called it a machine pistol to get it past Hitler. Hitler didn't approve of automatic weapons because he thought the soldiers would waste ammunition. He was influenced by the weapons that were available to him during World War I. However, the performance results of the MP43 were so great that they decided to introduce it into the army and the Waffen SS, and it was renamed the Sturmgewehr 44. It had a 30-round magazine that carried a shortened 7.92 cartridge, and it was a very effective weapon. One can only imagine if all the troops were armed with this. I don't think it would have made a difference. Germany's resources were stretched pretty thin by 1945, and we had the atomic bomb. So just one bomb on Berlin would have put an end to all of the fighting, I think. So that's a pretty cool figure. I like the autumn camouflage pattern. The M40 helmet with the camouflage cover, it has little loops on it so that you could put foliage. I cannot say that word. I want to say foliage, but it's foliage. Iggy has problems with words sometimes. Foilage. So not foliage. Never mind. I'm getting off track here. And he has dead looking eyes as well. That's one disadvantage of the dragon figures. I always thought that their head sculpts could have been better. Like Blue Box International has excellent head sculpts. Very, very good. And their uniforms, I think, are superior. Their equipment is superior. I just think it's a better figure. However, these figures are excellent. So don't be put off by what I'm saying about Blue Box International. I just prefer those. Although at one time, let me check my journal. At one time, I had 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24. I had 25 figures. That seems like a lot, but it's not really, because I believe they manufactured something like 600 different products. So this is just the top of the iceberg. I had to stop buying them in 2001 because of the expense. You know, when you're popping. I wasn't popping, I was dropping $50 a piece. That gets a little pricey. So I had to make the decision to stop buying them. And the last one I bought, the last one I got was a figure from my niece and nephew for Christmas, and he was a modern Navy SEAL by the name of Stan. And this is the last figure I ever bought, and I bought him 22 years ago. His name is Alfred. And this figure here I bought 23 years ago. So these have been around for a while. The first one they came out with was one called Hans. Okay, guys, that's all I got for you on these Dragon models figures of one American and one German. I think my landlord was at the Battle of Aachen. He was on the Eastern Front and also at Aachen, although it took him a long time to admit to me that he was there. He had no problem telling me he was on the Eastern Front. If you talk to veterans, well, you can't now. They're probably all passed away now, but they will always tell you that they were on the Eastern Front because they didn't want to, offend Americans or Brits with the fact that they also fought them. Okay, that's all I got for you this time. And I don't know if I mentioned, but the guy who stole all these figures here, I reported him to the police and they didn't do anything. In fact, when I told them what was stolen, it was a woman taking the notes. Oh, I remember this now. She looked at me like, what a loser. She said, I said, they're action figures. She said, you mean dolls? And I said, no, I don't mean dolls. They're action figures. And she said, that's what I said. And I'm like, fudge. They're not taking me seriously at all. So I said, okay, thank you. And I left. Okay, that's it for this time, guys. I want to thank you for coming along once again with Iggy and getting Iggy with it. It's time to enlist in the Iggy Army if you haven't done so already. And I think we should wrap it up and hit the Dusty Trail. We'll meet up at Roy Rogers Ranch. I would like to say hello to Trigger and Bullet. Bring a carrot for Trigger, okay? And a doggy biscuit for Bullet. That's all I've got for you. So, well, I was going to say sing goodnight from The Sound of Music, but let's face it, my speaking voice is kind of rough. I don't smoke, so I'm not sure how my voice got like this. It's like I'm going through puberty again. I remember when I was in high school, I asked a girl, I said, hi, would you like to go out with me? And she, of course, said no. I don't blame her. Why would you want to go out with someone like that? And I also looked like I was 12 years old when I was in high school, so not a great combo. Anyway, guys, enough complaining. I think I did too much of that in my last video. We don't need to get into that routine, do we? Or do we? Okay, guys, that's it. I'm just going to cut it off.